Ethos of Silence, a veteran podcast aimed to amplify the voices of veterans, creating a safe space for authentic conversations about their experiences, challenges, and triumphs. We seek to break the stigma surrounding mental health and foster a community for support, resilience, and understanding. Through storytelling, expert insights, and candid discussions, we strive to inspire healing, promote awareness, and empower veterans on their journeys. Welcome.
You playing it now?
All right, yep. This is episode 3. Try and pick up where we left off. What were we just talking about? Iraq, 07, 08?
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't come back till March of 08, but what kind of questions you had about where I was, what I did, what I worked on, a little deeper dive into what avionics in the Marine Corps looks like.
That's where we was at. It's all very interesting because, and it should be for a lot of our listeners, because it, for me and the interest, I don't know whether they grew up from the very beginning or if they were not. Once they made it and they were inaugurated, I like to say, into the military or indoctrinated or born or birthed, you become interested in everything that goes on. So hearing this new information coming from the wings that you served with and the places you were connected with ties into every one of us that are listening to. At some point, we were someplace in the war, outside of the war, and these dates and these times particularly, connect to information in times that we know.
Yeah.
For me, it fills in information I didn't even know what was going on. Not that I'm not the average Joe, but for me, the military experience, and some of them might have been, well, I was doing this and my head was down. But don't you find it so interesting? It wasn't just a plane flying around in the sky that was ready all the time. There was an entire crew that was actually bringing these planes up and keeping them going. So
it's an entire mentality of people who are there, who I was literally told, right? So here I am. I'm a corporal, right? So I'm an NCO at this point because I've been in the military for so long. I've got an expert rifle score, and I've got a stellar PFT because I'm a Marine. So I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get big. I'm going to be ugly, and I'm going to be able to take care of business when business comes my way. That's my mentality. That's the fire that I've been born into. I'm ready to slay the dragon whenever he comes for me, my family,
right.
And at this point for my Marine Corps, right? Mm-hmm. So here I am, Corporal Loucks, out there, kicking ass, taking names, fixing aircrafts, right? So you're getting up, you're going through the grind every day, and you're having your staff NCOs come and they're telling you, hey, your job's important because you're out there serving your counterpart. If you were in that foxhole and you're calling for air support, do you really want to be the reason that they don't get air support?
No.
And that comes all the way down to the expediter making sure that the part was ordered correctly, so the light bulb shows up, so the pilot's light bulb's working. So when he's got to look in a map as he's flying around, he's able to pull out his Grimes light and look at the map. When you think that it comes down to that intricate of a detail, that small of a detail, and it is programmed in your mind that everything comes down to that important of a detail.
That's intense when you put it that way, because that turns, the level of that turns great attention to just I'm assuming the infantry person who's just locking and loading, making sure his barrel space is right, and he's got it oiled. Okay. And you got a couple of lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some intensity to make sure that's going, but in
dude,
the sky,
we dropped napalm.
Yeah.
We dropped napalm. Napalm. I didn't even know we still drop napalm. They come around the corner with these kegs. Mm. Look like kegs of gas coming off the aircraft. Come off the corner with kegs. We drop napalm. We burn shrubs in the middle of a desert to the fucking ground. Because the Army was getting ambushed out of them. And they called for some support. And just like, I've got a million stories because we've flown so many hours in so many combat zones. These pilots tell you so much cool shit that just happens, right?
Yeah.
And from the fact of them catching on camera people running around with suicide vests and blowing themselves up to the fact of the Army getting ambushed and the first jet coming in. And I told you about these lightning pods, right? So we've got first account video, right? And toward the end of us being in Iraq, we were able to download this lightning pod footage and build a 3D terrain of the battlefield. So now we were able to say that, hey, this is where this happened. And we were able to upload everything into this secure network to where we were building our own Minecraft universe of a video game of the battlefield that they could rewind and fast forward based on the camera footage and it tell them when they got the camera footage of what area.
Wow, that's so sick. Jeez.
And, I mean, we're talking technology from 07, 08.
What, by the way, what carried those napalm barrels out there?
We strapped them onto the side of the Harrier like they were bombs.
Don't those normally go on like a helicopter? You
Yes.
Nuts. Well, you had to get the job done somehow.
Hey, they gave them to us to get it done. We got it done.
Yeah.
It is literally on the plaque from that deployment, the word napalm, that we would drop napalm because of how awesome it was. Like that, anybody who has any idea about aviation, which I had none going, I didn't even know, like, we had war machines. You know, like, I knew we had war machines. Let me back up. So going into the Marine Corps, right, and wanting to work on aircrafts, I was unaware of the amount of intricate detail it was going to take, but I was also unaware of the type of aircrafts that we brought to war and the types of things those aircrafts did in war.
Yeah.
Like, so World War II, the dog pilots that would fight each other and fighter pilots, they were famous.
Yeah.
Famous.
Yeah.
Right?
They made stories about them.
Stories about them. I had no idea. Like, that was never in my upbringing, never anything I was interested in. I wasn't interested in airplanes as a kid. I wasn't interested in any of that stuff. The Marine Corps took my ASVAB score and said, hey, look, you'd be good at working on aircrafts. You'd be good at being an electrician. Cool. Sounds good. Marine Corps sent me through a school, and then it popped up that there were so many billets for people to do work on this aircraft, work on that aircraft. I had a buddy who I traded orders with. I was supposed to work on helicopters. If I'd have worked on helicopters, I guarantee you the mentality I am, I'd have been a door gunner. I was supposed to work on helicopters. I traded my orders with him because my buddy Merritt got orders to Harriers and was like, hey, man, why don't you come work on Harriers with me? Sure. We both got assigned to the same squadron. I got fapped up to PMO. He didn't. A year later, he got sent to PMO to relieve me. What the hell? And I go to Iraq, and instead of him going to Iraq, he's guarding the gate. What kind of sense does that make? I haven't done my job for a whole year, and now you're magically going to pull me to go to Iraq. Oh, yeah. Hey, right before I went to Iraq, my grandpa died.
Yeah, that's the
So
part of it. Yeah.
So here I am. I get pulled back to the squadron. My grandpa dies, and I go off to Iraq. And the guy who I went through training with, everything, right? We went to boot camp together. I didn't even know him. He's from Louisiana like I am. He's from French Settlement. We went to boot camp together. Didn't even know the cat, right? Met him a little bit when we went through recruiter's assistance out here, you know, showing up all dressed up, trying to talk to the high school people and all that other different shit, get them motivated about joining the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
And go through all that. And this is the same cat, you know. He shows up to PMO and relieves me from PMO because we're just filling billets at this point because the Marine Corps got so many people deployed that they can't afford to have enough people to actually do the jobs around the base. This is how small the Marine Corps is. So we just fill the void. You fill the void by magically sending somebody out of their job description to go and do another job.
So this was the same grandpa you grew up this close to.
Yeah.
So you get the news, and then what happens? I mean, right after that, you're...
So instead of taking the block that was meant for taking leave before going on deployment, I came home 2 weeks before everybody and went to his funeral. I took my block leave for his funeral.
I see. So that was your leave.
That was my block leave that was supposed to be for the deployment. That was 2 weeks before everybody else.
So you got 2 weeks.
I show back up after that, and they send me to Iraq advance party because the Marine Corps loves showing love to people.
Yeah. Don't don't they? Right. So you got to close all that up, bundle it up in a neat package, and get ready to go back.
Oh yeah. No. I don't ever think I ever opened that box and fully dove into it until after the Marine Corps.
Right.
I don't think I've ever opened that box and dove into it till after the Marine Corps.
And that was the 07 deployment?
That was the 07 deployment.
Yes, indeed. It's just like it never happened at
Mm-hmm.
some point to them. What we have to do for this country at sometimes.
The sacrifices.
Yeah, and it's like, why should a soldier ever have to feel like, am I actually hated? Like, does the government actually hate me? They feel that way, and it's a feeling that is prominent. But we love this country so much. We love the Americans. We love our lifestyle. We love all the complexities and differences about this country that makes it so great. But yet we have a daunting, haunting amount of hanging over our head about the care for soldiers. And with just what we see in Congress, how they can change abruptly from what the nation's interests are. And we have so many veterans here that are...
You're off on a crazy tangent, my friend. You're off on a crazy tangent. I understand exactly where you're going. I despise the amount of politics that go into what we do as a country. I despise the amount of detail that is not paid to the individuals on the front lines who make the sacrifice. And I'm not considering myself an individual on any front line. I mean, I've made multiple sacrifices for the country. I'm glad I was able to make those sacrifices for the country. Right. I'm a better man because of those sacrifices for the country. But the tools to process those sacrifices as they were going on or when I come home from them, those were not made available, my friend. Those tools are just the fact of having, that buddy you can call at 3 a.m. and he's going to answer the phone.
That's right. Yeah,
and you can hear in the background of him, putting on his pants and grabbing his stuff and asking, where's the body? What do we got to do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the life support line there. That doesn't come from anywhere else.
And sometimes
we accept it, though.
Sometimes that's not family.
No.
Most of the time it's not.
No, most of the time it's not. We've ruined anything of ideas of families.
Water is way thicker than blood.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Blood has an unconditional love tied to it.
Yeah.
But that unconditional love does not come with respect.
No, there's a source of respect that comes from serviceman to serviceman, especially, or that one friend you can call. Yeah, for sure.
A grown man to a grown man, or a grown man to a grown woman, sense of respect, yes.
Yeah.
A sense of undying love, sure. That'll go to a family member. But I tell you what, I can love you and not respect you.
Yeah, touche on that. To a lot of the family members. I get that one. Yeah. So now we have, I guess now we have more of a movement where you're coming back. I mean, what's it like? Didn't you end up at the airport? Was that the first deployment where you were?
So squadrons fly back into the airport is Cherry Point. I'm on a Marine Corps air base. Of course, I'm gonna fly back into the air base I took off from.
Mm-hmm.
Fly back into that deployment. Wife's pregnant, so she didn't travel. Come see me. Nobody's there. Mm-hmm. Fly back in March. Nobody come see me. I'm all by myself.
You're alone, sitting in a place you've never been before.
Yeah.
For family, no one's there.
Mm-hmm. Well, not never been before, but I've been to Cherry Point. I had a whole house there. I had a house to look at. I had the grass to go and cut. Mm-hmm. Had some buddies who didn't deploy, who were about to go and deploy and go on a little mew. So I had some people to say hey to, but I basically went and let's see. 08 when got back in March. I think I got back, a couple days after my birthday. Went and got me a steak at a restaurant and sat at a table all by myself.
Nice. Yeah.
Had the waitress bring me a couple beers sitting there. I think it's my 22nd birthday.
Beer and steak.
Steak and beer.
Yeah.
And I look around. I'm all by myself. What have I just done? analyzing my entire life at this point for the fact that my son was just born. I'm in the Marine Corps that loves me. I can't travel to Louisiana and see him. I'm stuck in North Carolina. It's going to be another 2-3 weeks before my wife can travel from having my son. So here I am sitting in North Carolina. It's going to be another 2-3 weeks before the squadron gets back. Why the hell did they even send me home? Why couldn't I just stayed there? I feel like my entire life up to this point, my entire education, schooling, training was all meant for what you sent me home from. How? I mean, at this point, we're still talking about, I haven't even processed the fact that my grandfather, who was a key individual in my life, is no longer with us, you know? I can't talk to him about the things he's done in the Marine Corps. I can't connect with him on the level of a deployment whenever he went to Korea and Vietnam. I can't connect with him about those things, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
I can't connect with him on what he's done.
It's a lot to process.
You know, as it is, before I went, all I could do was get a DD-214 and look at what awards might have been his. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even had a chance before that to talk to him about what ribbons he wanted on his chest.
Yeah.
Just bury him in a set of dress blues, you know? I mean, as it is at the funeral, I remember being in my dress blues, standing there looking over him. Before they closed the casket, all his brothers and sisters want to take his medals because they wanted something to remember by, you know? I understand now, looking back at it, that at the time, I was an asshole sitting there saying, those are his. If you want some, I can order you some. I ordered those for him anyway. But that was an emotional reaction to an emotional moment.
Yeah, they'll never get the depths of that. Maybe it wasn't so much.
I'm not debating if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it was an emotional reaction to an emotional moment.
Yeah, it's stuff families should overlook.
So here I am, sitting here. My birthday, maybe a couple days after my birthday, reflecting over steak and beer. I think my mom and my father and my uncle all came and visited me before my wife and son ever made it back. Pretty sure. And they all stayed in my house, hung out, had some drinks. I think I taught my little brother some martial arts because got a couple more McMap belts while I was out there. UFC was big in 07, 08. So I thought McMap was on top of the world. I thought learning a little bit of ground and pound was making me into a way better warrior.
Ground and pound. Yeah, it was a big time back then.
So I had my tan belt, got my gray belt, got my green belt. So I had a green belt. And the cool thing about the McMap belts was the fact that you got to wear them as your actual uniform belt on your camis, right? So other than the fact of being a Marine and you able to look down and on your chest you have your last name, which is one thing that I've got to maintain, right? So this is how I maintain the fact that what I do and who I am is me, right? But I also have that other thing I got to live up to, right? My title, Marines, right? So that's on my other chest, right? Then when I look down at my waist, you know, I got my back belt, reminding me of how much of a badass I am.
I didn't even know that was
It's a mentality, man. It's a mentality where every time you turn around, everything you touch, the symbolism of it.
Yeah, I think that's what drew me to the Marine Corps. Very well versed in moral ceremony and the amount of
I mean,
attention.
do you even have any idea what the Eagle Globe Anchor stands for?
Well, I mean,
take some guesses, man.
I mean, the globe.
The globe.
That's obviously
worldwide service.
Yeah.
What about the eagle?
The eagle is we fly freedom over the
nation. All right, so nation, worldwide service. What about the anchor?
The anchors were grounded.
No, that's our naval tradition.
That's we're anchored down into our tradition.
I hear you.
Is that what it is?
No. It's naval tradition. Naval tradition. You know where the Marine Corps started?
It vaguely, but no.
A bar in 1775. Tun Tavern, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Tun Tavern?
Tun Tavern.
I got to remember that one. Tun Tavern.
Tun Tavern, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1775.
So the anchor is having to do with the sea.
Naval tradition.
So
You want to know why the Marine Corps was started?
we needed to have other ways to.
The Navy needed help protecting the ships from the pirates, right? So they'd get some Marines that get up in the rafters of the ships and they'd shoot down and shoot at the pirates. So they would identify the people on the ships between the pirates and the other by their hats. So the naval personnel would be wearing a quatrefold. It looks like a big X on their hat, the big target. So you don't shoot at the target, you shoot at the other guy who's not wearing the target on his hat.
That's interesting. Dang.
Dude, everything in the Marine Corps ties back to naval tradition and has symbology to it. You build an ultimate warrior race by them having the pride of understanding everything has a symbol and everything has a purpose. So we protect that symbol and we protect that purpose.
Jeez. I think we're just barely even touching on kind of history the Marines have.
Oh yeah. We're not here to teach you a history lesson on the Marines.
I don't know. I mean, most of our listeners should be captivated.
I hope they're as captivated as you are. I'm barely scratching the surface.
Barely touching a lot of the stuff. So but it's great. It's a great opportunity while I'm listening.
It's an ideology, man. It's an ideology.
But yeah, listeners who have tuned in, they're listening for the military support, but they're hearing things again that connect them at some place and some time.
Of course,
all military. We all should be interested, and that's the.
Not really. I'm chewing on my crayons over here. I'm only interested in me. My ego's not going to let me be interested in anybody else.
Well, true to yourself, then it is. But
I'm over here smoking my crayon cigars.
Smoke them up, man. Smoke them if you got them. Yep. So where does it go?
Where does my career go from here?
Yeah.
All right. So my career goes like this, right? So I got back, went to Iraq 07, come back 08. So my squadron combines. We're actually going to take out the 22nd, maybe it was the 24th. I forget what MEU it was, but we took out a MEU with 263 was the Thunder Chicken. So they're the squadron that's over the MEU, and we start working up with them, right? So 08, my son was born. By 09, I am redeployed on a MEU, right? Marine Expeditionary Unit. We attach. There's a couple ships. We're on a smaller ship. It's an LHD. We were supposed to take out a newer ship. We ended up taking out the Baton, USS Baton. It's about a football field long. So what it has on it, it's like you're saying, for a Marine Corps Strike Group, but this is a MEU, a Marine Expeditionary Unit, right? Mm-hmm. So the Marine Expeditionary Unit has a couple Hueys and Cobras, a couple 46s, and then traditionally it has 53s, but we're the first unit taking out the Osprey, right? V-22.
That's the one that rotates the wings.
Yeah. So we were supposed to be taking out a brand new ship, but the Osprey burnt a hole in the flight deck of the new ship. During our training operations. So we end up taking out the Peleliu, and not the Peleliu, the Baton, the USS Baton, and we put a brand new coat of paint on the flight deck and treat it the way it needs to be treated so that its jet engine doesn't burn a hole in that, right?
Okay, I see. Yeah.
But this lets you know how much bigger and badder this thing is, because Harriers have been doing workups on these things forever, and we've never burnt a hole in the flight deck with the way they've been prepared, right? Mm-hmm. So it lets you know, like, this jet engine, it speaks volumes compared to the Harrier jet engine, and the Harrier is just the fact that if we've got such a big engine, we can defy the laws of gravity. I don't think I've explained to you yet how a Harrier hovers, huh?
It doesn't have the turbines that go through the wing, does it?
No. That's a V-22.
That is a V-22.
Oh, and not a V-22. What am I thinking? That is the Joint Strike Fighter. The Joint Strike Fighter. That's the one that replaced me as the thing that goes through the middle. It looks like it's got a damn UFO in the middle of it.
That's right.
Yeah. No. This thing's got nozzles, right? And the nozzles rotate on it, right? It's got cool nozzles in the front and hot nozzles in the back. So it works off the stages of the bleed air from the engine for the nozzles, right? So it sucks in, and the first couple stages before the combustion is what it pushes out the front, and after the combustion is what it pushes out the back. That's why it's warmer, because it's already combust, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you've got a lids fence in the front, which is a little thing that helps them slow down and maneuver, right? So it closes and make a box in the front. You got strakes on the side, so you got a left strake and a right strake, and basically the strakes are there, but you can take the strakes off, and whenever you go to combat, you've got a gun pack. One's an ammo pack, the other one's the gun, right? Okay. And on the back, you've got your speed brake, right? And when you put the lids fence and the speed brake down, you create this box underneath. Now, hot air and cold air, just like a hurricane, creates lift.
Okay. Wow.
In that box, it creates lift.
No, I did not know that.
Magic.
Yeah, that is
fucking magic.
Yeah, that's pretty daggone.
There's no method to the madness. Just magic.
Wow, what a concept. What kind of guns that thing have on it, by the way?
Oh, just a big gun. As soon as you pull the trigger, you're out of ammo.
Oh, yeah, that kite. Okay. Well.
But we're an aircraft. We need a gun.
Yeah.
Just a big gun. As soon as you pull the trigger, you're out of ammo.
Big minigun.
Zip. All done.
Yes, indeed. So you storied out to the Baton. It's going out, and you guys have Harriers. Or no, you're on the Osprey at this time.
Well, the Osprey joint. So I was a Harrier avionics technician my entire time, right? But this is where I got a chance to touch some of the other aircrafts, like the Hueys. The Hueys are pretty cool. That's where you got your little door gunners. The Cobras are the two pilots. They've got one pilot in the front. It's a little bitty World War II or Vietnam small attack helicopter, right? The back of it, the pilot puts on this helmet, and it's like he's playing a video game. He's got a video game controller in his hands. Oh, okay. He can fire off Hellfire missiles, whole bunch of cool shit, right?
Okay, I didn't know that.
Like it is epically awesome,
yeah.
Right? The amount of carnage that these aircrafts can perform, right?
Yeah, I want to ride one.
All right, so these 53s, they're huge, and I mean, they're made to piggyback other aircrafts, right? So it can carry aircraft its own weight. We've had to have it carry a Harrier off the ship before.
Really?
Yeah. You just piggyback to it. You just tie a chain between them, and it'll pick it up and fly off with it.
And look this thing up.
Man. It is ridiculous. The CH-53, they're called a C-Knight.
CH-53.
Mm-hmm. CH-53s. And then you have your V-22s, which are your Ospreys, right? And those are the troop carriers, right? Little did I know in 07, 08 was they were in Iraq when I was in Iraq, part of the invasion, part of the push.
So this is an Osprey, or it's not an Osprey?
That is a CH-53. That is called the C-Knight.
But Osprey looks like
no.
Osprey has the
yeah. Huh? Osprey doesn't have a propeller on the top. It's got two jet engines.
Oh, okay, yeah. But it's similar looking like this.
No, it looks nothing like it.
All right, now I gotta look up Osprey. I don't know where I got entangled in this web of stuff.
Right, entangled into a web of what the aircrafts look like. We ain't even deployed yet.
No, indeed. Yeah, it has the wings rotate up and it has props, right?
Yeah, it got props on both wings, but it's more like propellers because they also they don't stay up top. They rotate to the front, so it's more like propellers than props.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also my V-22 Osprey.
Yeah.
This is the one that can lift.
Sound like dogs are getting into something.
Yeah, they are. They're doing their fence ritual.
Mm.
I'm on this side, you're on that side. But the Harrier is the one, though. That's the one that can carry another plane?
No. The Harrier cannot. The CH-53 can piggyback another aircraft. It can pick one up and carry it. It's got those those engines on there is a workhorse.
Yeah, it does look like a very strong structure.
Yeah, that's a workhorse.
Is it loud? Massively loud, huh?
Massive.
Yeah, I've been around quite a bit of helicopters. I don't know.
Massive. The cool part, one of the cool parts is as much hydraulic fluid and different stuff that's leaking on it. Whenever it's leaking stuff all over the place, and when you want to ride on it, you don't want to ride on the clean one.
It's not been tested. Yeah, I've been around a bunch of Chinooks. I can imagine it's as loud, as loud as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can definitely see the large engines.
But I mean, my deployment 2009 was mostly just a booze cruise, man, hitting different ports.
That was Afghanistan this time, or Iraq?
Well, that was at Mew. We had some aircrafts fly off to go and do some. I mean, we hit combat zones for a little while. They did missions in Iraq, missions in Afghanistan. They hit refuelers. We got the swine flu on the boat, so we were quarantined to the ship for 90 days. We hit Palma, Spain, which is beautiful. Went to Greece.
Yeah,
went around Europe. Went to Italy.
I feel real terrible for you.
Yeah, I mean, the Marine Corps really just kind of brought me around the world and showed me the world, and it was awesome. The Marine Corps loved me so much that they came down orders saying they wanted us to go in Afghanistan and help them out, and then they decided, nah, we want the Harriers to stay with us, so we have a complete show of force on the Mew to try and get other countries to buy into the V-22 project. So
that's the Harrier there.
That is the Harrier, baby.
I've seen pictures of it.
That is it.
I'm seeing that box you're talking about.
Yeah, to create the lift on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Front's closed, back's closed. Yeah, so Bell Chase I went down and seen Blue Angels down there.
Oh,
and I'd love to have seen one of those. They said there's one like this that shows up every once in a while.
You better see them soon. They're going extinct.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, because I went down there and seen everything else at F-16s, at F-15, F-18, F-22. A bunch of other different stuff. But this is one I've seen coming up through life. I want to check out, or at least get around. They had some on display.
I got some cool videos I should probably show you of it, like coming in on carriers and some stuff like that.
That would be pretty sick to see.
And it taking off, show you how short the flight deck is, how flight operations are, right? So that's one thing I want to get into. Like we've talked about the maintenance side of how it's 24/7, and when something comes back, you're ready to rock and roll. It's the same with all these aircraft. We've only got 6 of them, but 5 of them are always ready to rock and roll, and we got another one that we're pulling all the parts off of to make everything work, or we're waiting for the parts to come in because we're out at sea and our supply system sucks, right?
Yeah.
One of the hardest problems about being out there with the 22s was the fact that we're not actually in a combat zone for the majority of the deployment, so they don't have a priority to get their parts in. For the 22s, the priority for the parts goes to Iraq and Afghanistan at this point, where we got the Marine Corps fighting 2 wars on 2 fronts with all these people deployed and all this shit going on. So obviously all the parts have priority to go there first coming to you, right? So you've got your eye-level technicians that are working on shit, trying to get them fixed, but the parts are not priority coming to them. We're talking about a Harrier trying to get parts that, when it rolled off the line in the 80s, right? So like half the parts don't even exist. The Marine Corps is trying to figure out if they're going to pay the manufacturer to put the assembly line back together and pump out another 40 parts of this type, or how many do we need to pay them to put the assembly line back together? How many do we want of this? How much longer are we going to hold on to this model aircraft?
Not like there's an aftermarket supplier, right?
Yeah.
China.
Yeah, China's interested in selling us parts for our aircraft. We'll figure out how our aircraft flies off a Wish. Why not?
Yes, and Temu.
Temu aircraft for you. Oh man.
That's a big picture on that.
Yeah.
The importance of
But flight operations, so the Navy is catching all these aircraft coming in, you're refueling them, right? So how do you think you align to where you are at sea? How do you think the aircraft knows where it is when it starts up? Any guesses?
Like, does it...
Navigation system. I mean, we're about to take off and fly around the world with this aircraft, and we need to come back to the boat we took off from.
Yes, I mean, it could drop pins of where it's at.
Drop pins? What, like an iPhone?
Yeah, no, like on a navigational screen.
On a navigational screen. Okay, so the ship has a shipboard navigation, right?
Or has beacons that
the ship has a shipboard navigation. Just nod your head. Just nod your dick sucker. Like, yeah. Ship has a shipboard navigation because the ship knows where it's at, right? All right. So it doesn't matter if the ship's navigation is wrong or right. The ship thinks the ship is here, right? So we hook something called a SENS cable up, and you do a sea line with your aircraft.
sea line.
A sea line. So the aircraft aligns to the ship's INS navigation system, and from that point forward, and I mean, at this time, we didn't even have digital stuff in the aircraft. Now we have digital stuff where you can like download maps and different stuff like that. Before, we were putting a map disc in the aircraft. A disc, like a big floppy drive, is what we were sliding in there, and we were locking the floppy drive in, and then you'd connect to the shipboard INS, and the ship would tell you where you were at on the floppy drive.
I might feel bad for you if you were shoving an 8-track in there. It sounds good.
I tell you what, I'm sure older generations of people were having to put 8-tracks in there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you have a rich history of planes. Does that connect back to your thread and where you're at with life? You're connected to the history and the past history. You look at planes totally different than somebody else looks at planes.
I look at planes totally different now, but I never came up looking at planes.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So now it's like
I never had a history of planes. I never looked at planes in that way, you know.
We have to hear this stuff to know what it's like. That's where my interest is keeping, because you don't. It's the same thing. You didn't hear it.
No.
Or was it around it?
It wasn't on my radar.
But now they're an integral part of your life, and you know all about it. You can
part of my past.
You can
part of my past. They have no effect on me moving forward whatsoever.
When somebody's talking about planes and which plane it is, and with the knowledge of it than the average person. But you sharing this with us today kind of gives us a better insight that this is definitely, critical and understanding about planes and their importance, how they played, especially in the deployments. So your life reflects that. So Tim, you got back to that DMU and the deployment, and what's the tail end of your career looking like? You're coming out, and where you're getting introduced. Where'd you find support? Did they just kick you right out of the door and got be bumping down the road, or did they give you like a little paved highway coming out of the Marine Corps?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, as you can tell, they love me so much, right?
Yeah.
Dude, the tail end of my career is a sad story. You know, if it was up to me, I'd have done 20 years. The way the ball bounced and the situations that presented themselves, I ended up getting out. But I mean, I'm telling you, those 2 deployments are my first. I re-enlisted on that next deployment. I did a whole 10 years in the military. My whole exiting the military. Dude, I went from being the man, working on jets, being able to low-power jets, bringing them up, bringing able to high-power jets, low power, bringing the engine up to 40%, sitting out there on the flight deck, out there in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. The high power and bringing the engine up to, 115, 120% of what the engine capabilities were, and going through a checklist, making sure the engine's ready, that it's not going to fall apart in flight, So I went from being the man to coming home and sleeping on somebody else's couch and watching my family and, not being able to provide and not having this and not having that, and getting out of the Marine Corps, which was not my cup of tea and not my direction I wanted to go, and just from being on the top of the world, ready to, be this Marine and lead men into combat zones and have them firing on all cylinders so these aircraft stayed repaired and stayed ready. Right. From, I went to Japan and got a black belt in the Marine Corps martial arts program. I finished my training in Japan. Nice. Wow. That in and of itself is an epic achievement that not very many people even have a McMat belt, much less did the training in Japan.
No, I've never heard that. I appreciate it.
You know, like you had no idea about McMap even existing or your type of training just because you were telling me about your Army training. I was trying to wrap it around my head based off my Marine Corps training. So here I am, this Marine, right? Yeah. This guy who is just like, I'm Superman if Superman was a Marine. You know, I'm like, I'm that level of a superhero in my fucking head. Mm-hmm. And I've got to come down to earth to where now my decisions aren't even my decisions anymore. Somebody else is making decisions and I'm making a secondary decision based off of what they made. I'm now choosing the direction I need to start to take the rest of my life, right? And then just looking at, you know, this past week, all the hours, the 2 weeks, you know, we recorded 4 days ago, but that was at the tail end of my 2-week stretch of working, you know, all those hours, putting in all these hours at the soot factory, you know, just trying to keep everything rolling, trying to keep everything together. So my exit in the Marine Corps, it was rough, man. It's rough to wrap your head around going from being the man to then having to settle down. And being the man or having that mindset, I mean, it makes you invincible, but it's really hard to connect on a level raising kids. It's really hard to connect on a level of doing anything.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly handled that pretty well. It does come pretty well second nature.
Well, that's you looking from the outside in, man. That's you looking from the outside in. Yeah. That you from 1,000 feet above saying, "Hey, man, looks like you turned out okay."
Yeah.
You know, but I can say the same for you, man.
Right.
You've got a beautiful family, but I mean, I'm sure you have a bunch of mental challenges and mental stuff and hurdles in your mind and things you wish you'd have handled better.
I was going to say that it's a constant battle. Yeah, that's stuff we carry with us. I mean, the episode I've talked of earlier is stuff you carry with you.
But I mean, the same thing with, you know, throughout my career with, even if I just tie it back into a little bit of the Marine Corps martial arts, it's leveling up. It's always working on bettering yourself, bettering your surroundings, bettering your knowledge, being a better maintainer on the aircraft to better the people around you, because you're only as good as that Lance Corporal you got to send out there to change the battery.
I missed that part. I missed the part of bettering each other. Yeah.
But we shouldn't miss that part. That's the part. Iron sharpens iron. We should be sharpening each other now. That's what this should be doing.
That's what we should be doing.
And that's the direction I'm trying to take myself.
I'm with you on that.
And it's hard. And every day you wake up and it's hard. But every day as a man, you wake up and you give it your best. Yeah. Maybe you're not at 100%, so you can't give it 100%. Yeah, but hey, if I'm at 80%, it's getting every bit of my 80%.
Yeah. The day's like you're at 80 and like the day is like at 100, so it's a fight going against that day.
And you know what the military taught me?
Get that for sure.
You know what the military taught me?
The military teach you.
So even at the end of the day, when I didn't have 100% to give, and I've already given all that 80%, I'm never at zero.
That's right.
There's always more.
There's always more you can give.
I can always tap into this unlimited supply of motivation to better myself, better the people around me. Because at the end of the day, if I've given everything and I'm wiped the hell out and my kids come in and they need something, it's a priority. It's not even a second thought to say I can't. Even if it comes at my own detriment to the next day, I'm going to be at a 5-10% less than where I would have been. I will drive myself into the ground to provide for my wife and my kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it comes at a cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that cost is the piece that keeps me going.
Peace, man. That's all we want is some peace. Peace has a big price tag on it, especially nowadays. Things we got to do for it, the things we got to hang, the places we got to go. Well, I think we're going to set close for this session right now, Tim.
All right.
I think it's a good spot to stop and pick back up and mend the next topic into where this ethos is coming in, because I want to ask you more about that. I'm seeing a good surprising part of your career that's left me with a lot more questions. So we'll dive back into this and
Well, hopefully I'm full of answers, Kevin. Hopefully I'm full of answers, babe.
Tim, I have no doubt. Thank you guys for listening. We now have a moment of silent prayer for those still struggling with the battle, for our departed comrades, for those missing in action, and for those held as prisoners of war.